Hello, Internet. Welcome to episode 339 of the Assorted Calibers podcast, the second podcast in a little bit for everyone. I'm Weird. And tonight, we are having an ACP roundtable. And in the nature of full disclosure, I will say we have segments for a regular show, but oh my God, just the news stories just kept piling up. And I'm like, yeah, we need to do a full send on this one. So, of course, joining me is the greatest co-host of all the internet, Erin Paulette. How you doing, Erin?
Well, I'm very grateful that you picked today to do a round table because I'm not feeling it. My heart's not in it. You've heard of the Midas touch. Today, I have had the anti-Midas touch. You know, where everything I touch turns to poop?
Yes.
So, yeah, that's been my day, and I don't really want to talk about it, and listeners don't want to hear about it, so it's just great, you know? When I get all peopled out or don't want to do it, I'll just sit back and let you three ADHD people just circle around each other like, you know, dogs chasing their tails.
Yeah. I've been listening to some back episodes recently, and I've noticed that a few episodes back, Erin was the best co-host in the known universe, then in the world, and now on the internet. And I'm wondering if next episode in the continental United States, you just keep on reducing it.
The internet goes on forever.
Yeah, but not everyone in the world has the internet, so the internet is smaller than the world.
Pretty soon, there's going to be broadband on Mars.
But not yet.
So moving on, obviously we have David here with us. How are you doing, David? I
hurt. We planted trees yesterday.
Oh, were they Bradford pear trees?
No. No. This past weekend was the Tennessee Environmental Council's annual tree day, and they have a variety of trees to choose from that you can purchase for very little money, and they're sticks with roots. And then everyone's supposed to plant the trees across the state on the same day or over the same weekend. The tree day was Saturday. We didn't plant them till Sunday, but they usually say that's fine. I was out of town teaching on Saturday, but we got 3 pecan trees or pecan trees, depending on where you're from, and 3 black cherry trees. And as soon as I make a follow-up call to the utility company, we're going to put in 3 wild plum trees. I would love to plant pear trees because I do like pears, but as the neighbors do have Bradford pear trees, that's out of the question. And I like the neighbors more than I hate the Bradford pear trees. So there's that. And yeah, so digging half a dozen holes, I mean, you know, for someone like Xander or Miles, probably not a big deal, but for someone in my shape and my damage, ow. But hopefully in 3 to 5 years, we'll actually start to get some fruit from and nuts from them.
You have my sympathy, David. I mentioned a few weeks ago we had our ACs cleaned, and so I had to move all the furniture away from the AC. And I by the time my wife got home from work, the bedroom and the third floor, the furniture was all back, but the living room, there was still a couch that was essentially just looking at the dining room table. And all. My daughter thought it was hilarious. Like suddenly that was like the only place that she was sitting, and she was upset that it was going to come back. But eventually, my wife looked at me and went,
"Fix this.
Are these going to move back?" And I said, "Well, I've been busy today, and the other day. By the time I moved everything back, I knew I had to move the furniture back to the bedroom, especially since my wife would have been able to get to her side of the bed just fine, but my side of the bed was walled off."
You just would have crawled over your wife's side.
Yes, that works.
As long as you were getting in bed first and out of bed last, is no problem. And if you weren't, then fun.
Our sleeping arrangements is very similar to Oddball and Panya's. in the fact that we could get a full night's sleep beside our spouse, and they may not realize that we were ever there.
Did you come to bed?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And while I'm mentioning him, let's let everyone know that we have an oddball.
Yes, and this weekend I was reminded to make sure your hearing protection is on properly, or else the 357 Magnum revolver will make a sound that goes bang.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. You have my utmost sympathy.
Oh.
What's even more fun is when you're shooting at an outdoor range by yourself, trying some different really effective suppressors, and then shoot something that you don't have a suppressor on and forget to reestablish your ear pro.
Mm-hmm.
Or my personal favorite is your bench rest shooting at 200 yards, a 300 Win Mag rifle, and you're getting behind the scope, and so you're getting a really good cheek weld, and because you're mashing your cheek into the stock nice and tight. It's also a little the toe of the stock is also pressing your ear pro slightly off your ear.
Just enough for you to notice when you pull the trigger.
Yeah. Just enough that there is an air gap directly in line with the muzzle of that monster rifle.
And that's why, why I typically wear plugs and not muffs.
Yeah. No, I actually have. I have. I mean, I've got a great pair of Walker's Electronic Ear Pro that I use when I'm shooting. I almost exclusively use when I'm shooting pistols, though. Also, when it gets hot out, I'll switch, because nothing is worse than just like when you take the earmuffs off and you're worried that you're gonna pour some, you're gonna spill it.
Swampy. You have swampy.
Yeah. So when the humidity,
I do want to get a pair of ear pro like Oddball has. Those look really good.
Which ones are those?
I don't remember, but he sent me the link several times now.
Oh heck! And now I'm blanking on the name of them.
Hey, Weird. The walkers you were talking about, are those the ones that we got at the Gundies or something?
They absolutely are.
Those are good. I've got. They are one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're both like really good. I mean,
I don't know if these are the exact ones or similar.
The IsoTunes Sport Bluetooth earbuds.
Those are different ones, because I found a set of walkers that look really good, but were noticeably less expensive.
I will say, the walkers that Erin and I got at the Gundies, number one, they work excellent, because let me tell you, if my ears weren't ringing or even a little bit numb at the end of that first range day, nothing's gonna hurt it, because literally there was a minigun going all the time.
Right, and the problem with the reason why I didn't notice was because the earbuds I was wearing, the IsoSports, have the sound amplification, and it was good enough and set at the right level where everything was just, everything was at the right volume level, and that's where it was when I made sure that it was back in, was everything sounding normal, except the gunshots were now much quieter.
Yeah.
But whenever I'm shooting rifles, I'm always using in the ear hearing protection, just for that exact reason. Is I was actually just talking with some people about, somebody had a picture up of a Tavor that they had set up, and it had what looked like a really tall riser on the red dot that was on it, and I'm like, that riser looks really high. And they're like, yeah, no, I prefer a heads up shooting position, which totally makes sense. You want to be able to have, range of motion and preserve vision. I definitely like to have my cheek on the stock. I don't feel like I'm shooting right unless the cheek's on the stock.
Yeah.
But and with my cheek on the stock, there's a possibility you're going to break the seal on the earbuds, and just got to break the seal just a little bit, and that's all you need.
Yeah. Oddball, are these the ones that you have? IsoTunes Sport?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, those look very nice. If I did more long gun shooting, I would probably have to invest.
I mean, I'm almost tempted to get a pair of them just as my like everyday headphones, just because I always like to keep my headphones in my pocket anyway. And so suddenly I just show up at the gun range. Oh, I forgot my Ear Pro. No, I didn't.
Yeah, the same company makes a set that is like the quote true wireless Bluetooth earbuds, where the earbuds are separate from each other, and it has a little case that's also the charging station for them.
Mm-hmm. The ISO-Tune's free. They're not free.
No, they're not. They're
If you're going to call something free, it should be free.
But I also just like the fact that I run a pair of Jabra earbuds, and they have the hear through feature, which is nice. But I wish that the app that controls them, I could adjust the like most ear, like shooting ear protection, I could adjust the volume of the hear through so that I could go from like, I could feel like I'm hearing the outside world to my liking.
Mm-hmm.
Where instead of walking around with Cam Edwards in my earbuds, instead it sounds like I'm walking and Cam Edwards is having a conversation with someone directly behind me.
But speaking of things that are behind us,
yes, we're headed for that first. I mean, we might as well, because we got a lot of stories to go through.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had a Supreme Court ruling, and this is. We talk a lot about, this various court case goes through, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and we always know, they're going to appeal it. And this one, in fact, is it went all the way up to the top, and it didn't go well. I'm talking about VanDerStok v. Bondi, or Bondi v. VanDerStok. And that this is the frames and receivers case where Biden wrote that. Or no, was that was the Bipartisan Safer Community Act, wasn't it? I'm trying to
I'm not fully sure what you're asking, but this was previously known as Garland v. VanDerStok, or VanDerStok v. Garland. So it was originally started in the previous administration. But
yes, I'm trying to remember where the frames and receivers ruling came from. It was never written down. It was always an interpretation from Steve Beeplesneitz. Mm-hmm. But the question is, was it something that was in the Bipartisan Safer Community Act that said, hey, ATF needs to look at this, or was it just an executive order?
This was before the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act.
Yeah.
One comment by Kostas Moros about this was that this was not challenged on Second Amendment. It was challenged for regulatory.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's also the problem that it was run on a facial basis rather than as applied. And Oddball may very well correct me on this or add different information, but the way it works, and I think this is what doomed the case, is that when you challenge a law on the facial basis, you basically say, this law is invalid 100% of the time. It could not ever possibly be correct. And so the judges, when they looked at this, some of the examples brought forward of these polymer guns were... And you can debate all you like about whether or not, an 80%, readily convertible, whatever. But the way they read the law was, some of these can be converted into functioning guns in as little as 20 minutes. We're going to call that readily convertible. We're going to say that it applies. So it fails the facial challenge. So I think that's why some of the conservative judges went along with upholding that law.
There's also and this is more of it wasn't so much whether or not it was the law itself, but the interpretation that the ATF takes on it. And there was a decent amount of the judges saying, well, yeah, these 80% lowers, they're being marketed as lowers with a couple extra steps, and that they were saying, yeah, the fact that this was the product was sold with the clear intent of everybody involved to make it into a firearm makes a difference. And as Erin said, there were a good number of them. The amount of effort and time taken to convert an 80% lower into a 100% lower is about the same amount as it would take to convert a starter pistol to a real pistol. And it's been long held that starter pistols that are easily convertible into actual firearms are regulated as actual firearms because of that easy conversion. So not the ruling that I would have liked, but
no,
unfortunately I can see the logic.
Yeah, it is. It's not great. I'm not happy with it, but at the same time, it isn't the absolute positive end of the world. But it still sucks, because one thing that I'm always saying, like, I actually would somewhat welcome a ruling that declares certain unfinished firearms to be firearms, and if they are made to that level, they need to be they need to be serialized at all, and and sold with a background check, so long as it defines where that line is. And this case absolutely did not. There was under no circumstances did anybody say, okay, so long as it takes less than this, or these components are missing from the build, etc., then it's acceptable. But no, it's just saying, nope, this is too easy. Well, then what's the limit? What's not easy enough? Nope, that needs to be a completely different challenge. So that part sucks. The good part is, well, another angle is really the only
good is maybe not the right word, but
one angle on this is that it was specifically talking about Polymer 80, and people are noting that Polymer 80 is no longer around because this drove them out of business. And so it's only them, and they were only specifically talking about essentially the kit. What was it called? The buy build shoot kit. Was that the name of it? Had a catchy name.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
essentially, it was a box. The box had a 80%, we'll say Glock. They had a couple of different versions, but like an 80% Glock receiver, the jig to drop it in, the end mill that you would use that you put into your power drill for milling it all out, and then it would have
caboodle.
And it would have a fully assembled slide, and the all the small parts. So essentially, you would need the only thing you would need to supply is a power drill and your sweet time
and ammunition.
Yeah, and you would have a working firearm. Within, they're saying within minutes. It's
excessively optimistic.
Yeah, I have been very, very open in saying that I do not have any Polymer 80 type guns, even though Massachusetts. We'll be talking about Massachusetts a little later, but as far as I know, Massachusetts still really doesn't have any rules against it, and there was certainly a time frame when I could have easily bought one and made my own handguns, especially things like Glocks, which are very, very difficult to get in this state. But in fact, I didn't do it because I knew that I would be spending 3 times the amount for a Glock, and just, oh crap, I went too far. this isn't working. Throw it away. And I didn't want to do that.
And I've known people that have done the Polymer 80 AR blowers, and their statements were pretty much all, so yes, the first time you do it, go ahead and buy 2 because you're going to screw the first one up.
Absolutely.
But once you get the hang of it, it's fairly quick to mill out what you need to mill out and drill the holes. Just make sure not to drill a third hole.
Yeah, and Weird, it's kind of the same concept as fitting a new thumb safety to a 1911.
Mm-hmm.
Just get 2.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, actually, a friend of mine one time offered to let me shoot his 3D printed Glock, and I wasn't able to because it didn't work.
Yeah, it warped in the sun. That was my bad.
I just wanted to throw you under the bus for that one.
Well, I did print a new receiver, new frame for my Ghost Glock, and I've now put, I think, 200 rounds through it with no issues.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you do anything different, or was it just the fact that it was just in the hot sun and that was just too much for it?
Just the fact it was in the hot sun.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, PLA Plus is not a temperature stable material.
Yeah.
And and there's one other thing that I heard. It was actually covered in the Reload podcast, but they got talking about, evidently, though, one thing that they did ask, which is absolutely was popping into my head, because of course the idea is, when you're suddenly talking about, something's too easy to be converted into into a firearm. Obviously, you got the infamous. All right, well then, congratulations. Now Home Depot's a gun shop, because we can make a whole lot of tube guns out of that. But also, they were talking about, well, could this be used to make AR-15s illegal, because you can convert an AR-15 from a semi-auto only firearm to one that would be legally classified as a machine gun. I will note that the law does not specifically state that it's a machine gun. It's a machine gun the moment that you convert it, but so long as it's capable. Yeah, David beat me to it. Posted the.
You were talking. I figured I'd save you the trouble.
The coat hanger auto sear. If you haven't seen it, just type in coat hanger auto sear.
Actually, I just typed in wire hanger.
Yeah,
and that's like the 4th result.
Yeah, but also like you'll see memes where people talk about, you want to disable your AR-15. Simply drill a hole right here. It'll completely put it out of commission. And of course, it's showing the hole for the auto sear pivot pin,
the third hole.
Exactly, the infamous third hole. And no, if you were to take a drill, if your impulsive thoughts, intrusive thoughts kicked in, and you took that drill and drilled that third hole into your gun, and then went to the gun range and flicked the safety over to where the full auto position would be.
Well, it still wouldn't go to that third position because the safety's the same. You'd have to get a safety cut for the full auto position.
Yeah, even if you
you'd have to get a different disconnector and trigger.
Yes, and the auto sear.
And an auto sear, yes.
Yeah, so it's
that hole alone is just the beginning.
Correct, but that hole is the magic spot where a semi-auto AR-15 suddenly becomes a full auto machine gun. It has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with the fact that it can shoot full auto right away. But essentially, they were noting that you can convert an AR-15 into full auto very, 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 very quickly if you know what you're doing and you're skilled, which appears to be the what they're using. And they said, no, that's not the intent. The intent of this, especially for something that's in its common use as an AR-15. So here we also have a second reference to the AR-15 being in common use, stated by the courts. I believe that was Scalia that said it, but I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. But I will say that the person who said it in the last time was Justice Sotomayor, and so it will be interesting to see if this is kind of a preamble to. I mean, we keep waiting for one of the assault weapons cases to be taken up. Maybe it's a preamble. Maybe it's just they're not there. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
So I just want to say, because people know my feelings on these things, and I've got to grouse. The Trump administration has claimed it's a pro-Second Amendment administration, but
yeah.
So what I'm getting at is, if they were really pro-Second Amendment, they could have just dropped the case. They could have said before SCOTUS, we have decided not to defend. They could have conceded. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they decided to fight, all I'm saying is that it reinforces my cynicism about just how pro-Second Amendment this administration claims to be.
Especially the head of the DOJ.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
on this particular one, they actually heard. I believe they actually heard the oral arguments and the written arguments and all that last year. That they just now came out with with the ruling and opinion. So they heard the arguments, etc. But before Trump took office.
So they renamed it to Bondi, but she actually had nothing to do with what came out, what led to this.
I think so. I'd have to look at it.
Okay. I don't feel better about the ruling, but I feel a little bit better about the administration's part in it.
True.
If this had already, basically, if the courtroom side had already ended before Bondi was confirmed, and it was just the justices going back and forth with each other.
Yeah. The oral argument. The oral argument was back in October.
So before the election, even.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that is better. Although it is very strange that they changed the name because I know the ruling happened under Bondi, but really the case, the trial, if you will, took place under Garland. SCOTUS cases are weird.
The legal world is weird.
Yeah.
But thank you for clarifying that, Oddball. That does actually make it less bad.
But I will also add that even though the President of the United States does not write laws, does not make law, or at least does not present laws, and all that, anybody can write a law, and also anybody can say there ought to be a law, and so I will just be saying this over and over and over again. We need to quit making this all about the courts and executive orders.
Right. Like it needs to be legislative.
Yeah, this is Mickey Mouse crap. Is the courts are there as a last resort, and executive orders just really shouldn't be used in this fashion at all. It was never the original intent of it. And what we need is, Biden, for all the shenanigans that he pulled on us, did actually get his party did present a gun control bill and passed it, and he signed it. So, we could do the same thing, and the bill wasn't that great, but it does also cause some problems. Mm-hmm. So either way, we need more. We need some damn legislation.
Yeah.
Going through. That is that is like literally the faster way to fix all of this. Because again, the Supreme Court is so slow, and it should be.
And it's also the thing of as has been shown here, the courts may or may not go your way.
Mm-hmm.
And and part of that is just because you don't like it doesn't necessarily mean that you can get it declared unconstitutional, etc. Now, I mean, obviously, I am all for the whole serialized firearms and FFL stuff, and I should be able to buy these by the stacks and make them at home to my heart's content, and I should be able to make guns completely from scratch, etc. And I should be able to I should be able to mail order machine guns to my door, but and I can make arguments that that's the constitutional way. Unfortunately, that's not the law of the land, and getting the nice men and women in the black robes and gavels to agree with me is difficult.
Yeah, especially since the next group of ladies and gentlemen in robes may revisit that.
And may I add that the fact that we're debating this at all is dumb as hell, because let's be honest, the only reason why receivers are regulated, and the build quality and the convertibility is going through, is that people who may not be legally allowed to own or keep a firearm may in fact get a non-gun and convert it over into a non-gun. And I will note that they are not allowed to do that, and so therefore it's illegal. And so it's one of those like, all right, first up, criminals doing criminal stuff. After the first felony, the rest are free. Who cares?
Yeah, and the definition of a criminal is someone who doesn't follow the law.
Yeah, if you're building a gun so you can rob a bank or mug people or all that, what do you care if you followed all the rules? And so instead, honestly speaking, in the perfect weird world version of this, my good-natured gesture would be, we'll put a 10% sales tax on the sale of any marketed, 80% lower out there, or any sort of build your own receiver kit, and we'll use that money to build and staff courthouses, and we'll use those courthouses to federally charge people with illegal possession of firearms and put them in federal prison. So hey, guess what? You walk into a convenience store and there'll be 7-Eleven right beside the malt liquor. There'll be build kits. But hey, guess what? If you're a felon, don't do it. We're coming after you. That's just my take.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, going in related news, they are also trying to press the whole just making guns at home period should be illegal and not allowed.
Yeah, something that we've done since before the country was a country.
Right. As you posted in here, the story of DA Bragg out of Manhattan has talked about trying to press 3D printer manufacturers into making it so that they have AI or something in them that detect, this is a gun part. No, you're not allowed to print that. And I know a lot of people that scoff, a lot of people in the 3D printing community that scoff over that idea, but there are a couple companies that are working on software to do just that. And
and not necessarily because of pressure from any politician, but for their own reasons.
Right. And as things are unfortunately looking like they're heading more and more towards companies pushing towards cloud solutions for prepping your files, etc., that makes that a lot easier if they get the detection stuff working to inject and enforce on you from being able to print what you want to print at home.
Yeah. And then, of course, there will be the follow-up of all the different techniques for jailbreaking your printer. It'll be the constant battle of arms versus armor.
Mm-hmm. Right. And of course, New York is also the state that has talked about that has introduced legislation for a couple years now, trying to make it so that you want to buy a 3D printer that can, or a CNC machine for that matter, that can produce a firearm or firearm parts. Well,
that's firearm part,
right? Which means any 3D printer or CNC machine.
Yep.
So basically,
you're going to have to go through a background check.
So basically, constructive intent, right?
And constructive intent turned up to 11. Because that basically... So Chevron deference, Supreme Court said that federal agencies can't do Chevron deference anymore, but that doesn't apply to the states. So, in effect, if that type of legislation passed and is as sloppily written as most of that legislation tends to be, any tools. Because you can make firearm parts with a file.
Well, the legislation that I've actually seen, that they've actually introduced, has specifically referred to computer-controlled equipment. So
yes, but it has the very vague or similar. Has been abused in New York before. So it's a bit of a stretch, but the or similar language has been abused by New York courts.
The anti-gun states have always proven right that if they can stretch it, they'll stretch.
Yeah. So
all right. I think we've had enough of that news.
Let's go on to the next bit of bad news.
Yep, and then we also we covered the 3D printing. So excellent segue, Oddball. This one was just dropped. The Matt was on before the show started and said, "Did you guys put in the notes the Short Act, which again." It should be a crime to have cute backronyms in your bill title.
Yeah.
This essentially is removes the unconstitutional taxation, registration, and regulation of short-barreled rifles, shotguns, and any other weapon under the National Firearms Act.
You skipped one right after VanDerStok.
Yeah, I ended up skipping it because of it made sense to skip to the third one, but
okay.
Yeah.
No, I know that, but Weird just skipped.
Yeah.
I know, and I highlighted it thinking Weird would understand we need to do this one next.
Oh, yes.
And then he didn't, and so that's why I said we skip this one so that it wouldn't get lost in the shuffle. I wasn't trying to interrupt.
Oh yeah, let's
I was trying to interrupt.
All right.
Yes, it was worthwhile. I missed it.
And this is actually something that Weird, it really connects to both of us, because this was the U.S. District Court upheld a New York State ban and separate New York City ban on sale, possession, and use of stun guns and tasers.
Mm-hmm.
And basically by saying they were not in common use, which in 2016, how's that name pronounced? Catano?
Catano.
Catano v. Massachusetts, your home, unanimously vacated a Massachusetts Supreme Court ruling upholding that stun guns were, in fact, in common use. So there is a district court that is now basically coming out saying that they disagree with the SCOTUS ruling, if I read this even remotely correctly.
I don't think that's entirely correct. The way that I read it was that, and I don't have it in front of me to find the exact wording, but it was more like the Supreme Court said, we find this ruling to be wrong, but they never at any point said all stun gun bans are wrong. And so this judge is basically, okay, well, loaded language here, weasel wording, saying, well, the Supreme Court didn't say we couldn't. So I'm going to interpret that to mean that we can.
Yeah, from what I'm reading from the Reload article, the judge in New York basically is saying that they're unusual because they weren't in common use at the time of the founding, whereas the Supreme Court decision, quote, The Second Amendment, quote, extends prima facie to all instruments that constitute bearable arms, even those that were not in existence at the time of the founding. It also emphasized that the Second Amendment protected more weapons than just those useful for military service.
Well, I mean,
that's part of Caetano decision in 2016, and just now this New York judge is basically saying, nah.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know where my loyalties lie, because I called.
Of course.
I said what the judge said, weasel words, but I was trying to present how he's justifying it. Hopefully, this gets appealed and it gets smacked down, because I think Judge Thomas will not look kindly on it.
Well, and I honestly, I haven't read the decision, but from what I've seen, it was less that he was saying I disagree with the Supreme Court, and more just completely ignoring the existence of the Caetano case.
Oh no, he acknowledged it, but disagreed.
Oh, he did. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it says that right in the Reload article. Judge Ramos acknowledged the Caetano ruling, but disagreed that it implied stun gun bans are unconstitutional.
Which, considering a stun gun ban was the whole topic of that case, is just ridiculous. I mean,
keep in mind, this is New York, where a judge said the Second Amendment has no place in this courtroom.
Right. Which, in fairness, that was a state judge, which, again, no, sorry, you're wrong, but it's something that I've expressed opinions about in the past, that I have feelings about the fact that we have judges that are straight up ignoring, contradicting, or straight up saying, no, SCOTUS is wrong on this, when, sorry, you are the inferior court. You're supposed to take your marching orders from SCOTUS. You are not, you do not have the authority to rule counter to what SCOTUS has stated in the past. And
I believe it's
really
not quite as blatant as all of this, and the fact that there's I heard somebody say, and again, I don't have the legal understanding to really go back and give an opinion of this, but I've heard that there was somehow the nature of how the Caetano case was ruled on did give them some avenue for dissent without it being quite as disrespectful as we're reading it as. But
yeah, that's basically what I was saying.
Yeah, I mean, I was just reading the quotes from the Reload article. The judge was quoted as saying, yes, I recognize that ruling, but I disagree with it.
Yeah, the Caetano court did not conclusively determine, because it wasn't required to, that stun guns and tasers are in common use. So that's the weaseling.
Yeah. So either way, this will keep on moving, and yeah, it's a little bit of a baffling story.
I
mean, not really. I mean, this is New York.
It is New York, yes, and I live in Massachusetts.
Yeah. And New York also has a Chinatown.
It's Chinatown, Jake.
Yes.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
All right, so can we move to the short act?
Shortly.
Yes. I mean, there's not a whole lot going through this proposed
so
law.
We'll just give it a short overview.
Yes.
You know, if you keep this up, we're going to short circuit, because we know he has a short temper. And
you're going to get short with me as well.
Well, she's not particularly tall.
I wasn't going there, Weird. All right, we'll shorten the preamble and just get right to it. I got him to sigh. That's a win.
Oddball, save me.
Oh, well, from what I've seen, I got nothing.
You were trying to come up with one yourself?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
I was just short on time.
Yeah. And from your elevation, everything's short.
Right?
Thanks to all our listeners. And very special thanks to all our supporters on Patreon. Let's talk about this bill.
Okay, so once again, acronyms and backronyms to make laws catchy sounding needs to stop.
Yeah,
Just
it's
give it
not
a
cute.
name.
It's not
No.
funny.
No.
Yep.
But the Stop Harassing Owners of Rifles Today Act.
I mean, from what I've seen, the actual submission for this year is Senate Bill 1162, a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to remove short-barreled rifles, short-barrel shotguns, and certain other weapons from the distinct definition of firearms for the purpose of the National Firearms Act and other purposes. I'm kind of fine with just calling it the Short Act.
Okay, that's valid. I'm just impressed at your lung capacity to get all that out.
Either way, what it's doing is
it's a good thing.
Yeah, and it's doing something that, honestly speaking, is a no-brainer. I have a 454 Casull snub-nosed revolver. The idea that
I didn't ask how big the room was.
Yeah, that someone might have an AR-15 that is 18 or 20 inches in overall length
is 26 inches in overall length.
Mm-hmm.
Or has a 15 and 7/8 inch barrel.
Yeah, correct. We really are the only reason why barrel length is at all in the NFA is because it was originally the $5 any other weapon tax was also supposed to include handguns. They just wanted
a definition to separate handguns from long guns.
Yeah, they wanted to expand the cost of handguns by adding a $5 stamp and register them all. And luckily that got knocked out, but a vestigial creation of that, which was, all right, well, I mean, what's someone not to say, oh, this is a 22 long rifle gun, so therefore it's a long rifle, even though it's a Ruger standard.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I don't need to tax stamp it. So they added the whole barrel length factor in there that was supposed to suddenly make all, and that's also where you get the 26 inches overall length minimum added in there, because concealability was also a factor in this definition. And so it was essentially the only guns that you were going to allowed to have were non-concealable firearms that were that were not full auto. And but
so I just clicked on the link in the article to the actual text of the legislation, and it doesn't have a Senate number yet. Is that correct?
Let's see.
It just
I had posted what I'd found earlier in Discord, and there's what I'd found earlier.
It's just in the. Okay, that's the actual Congress. All right. In the article from the show notes, right at the top is the Stop Harassing Owners of Rifles Today Act, and that pulls up
a bill from last year.
Oh, okay, that's what I was misunderstanding.
Yeah. And this is the one we reported on it last year. This is the same.
They
bill.
both say 1/19th congressional session, so I'm just wondering if this is simply something different.
Oh, maybe I grabbed the press release from last year.
No, this was a press release from this year. Now, the Congress.gov does not have the text up yet.
Right. But they both say they're the 119th Congress.
Right.
So I think it might just be the one linked in the article is an archived earlier version.
Well, no. So the one linked in the article is to Senator Marshall's website, and so it looks like he's just gone ahead and posted a copy of the text of the bill that he is submitting.
Okay, so the bill as
before
submitted,
it was
got it.
Yeah, before it was officially submitted. Hence why there's not a number under the S at the top, and I'm sure there's some date in there that normally shows up.
Right, just like the Congress.gov doesn't have the text as of today.
Correct.
Oh, this is also very confusing.
Yeah.
But the intent of the bill is good.
Mm-hmm.
And I would very much like to see that because honestly, it would make life a lot easier for everybody and remove a lot of work for the ATF.
And again, it accomplishes nothing. Again, if you
Well, the bill accomplishes quite a bit. The law accomplishes nothing.
Yeah, if you want something powerful, and I mean, you could get an AR pistol, no problem. So
with an arm brace that you're not supposed to shoulder.
Correct. Or not, whatever, or put a tennis ball on the end of it. I mean, there's all sorts of kludges.
So you put the tennis ball on the feet of your walker, weird.
I mean,
well, and also it's the thing of they're trying to state that, oh, well, if you take the argument in chambers is, well, if you take a 9mm pistol and you put a stock on it, then it's somehow more dangerous, which,
right.
No, putting a stock on it, the only thing that does is it makes it more accurate. So to the public as a whole,
it's
it would actually be safer and more comfortable and more enjoyable to the folks taking it to the range and shooting it or whatnot, or similar for a home defense gun or what have you.
Right. And as Weird said, his 454 Casull revolver is way more powerful than my 300 Blackout AR converted into pistol format.
Right. And similarly, I've shot a 308 pistol.
No. Yeah.
I saw all sorts of stupid pistols. I shot a 30-31. That was pretty spicy.
Yeah, a friend of mine has a the HK-33 at the little.
Oh dear Lord!
It's 5.56, but it's 53.
Is it one of the ones that's set up like an MP5K?
Not K.
Okay,
but it is set up like an MP5. I think it was it was HK. He had an HK-53 semi-auto only.
And yeah, people who have done testings on such things have found that you take a full power rifle cartridge and you stick it through like a 9-inch barrel. You're making a lot of flash, a whole lot of bang, and you're losing a whole lot of energy with not having that barrel length.
But either way, it'd be good. And
it's fun.
Well, one thing we were talking about before the show started is that as a general rule, these sort of bills get floated all the time.
That's
the Hearing
true.
Protection Act, all this sort of stuff to pull stuff off of the NFA. And it is really the correct political mode of action. I don't think we have the capital to just repeal the NFA in its entirety.
Not yet, no.
I think that there wouldn't be a problem with peeling off certain pieces of it. And I think suppressors are absolutely one perfectly good avenue. This is another perfectly good avenue.
Honestly, I did go back and forth on whether suppressors are SBR or lower hanging fruit, because there's arguments for both.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is they're two different arguments. On the Hearing Protection Act, you say it's a safety device. It's all well and good. For this, you point out the fact that it does absolutely nothing, because you can get really, really powerful handguns, or you can get really, really wimpy rifles, and you can get bullpups that essentially are the size of, like, you could get a Tavor, which is the same size as a short-barreled AR-15.
Yeah.
And there's some muzzle.
It's actually it's a little bit longer because it has to be over that 27-inch minimum.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I was saying is that you could cut an AR-15 barrel down exactly so that the crown of the crown of the muzzle threadings was 26 and a half inches or whatever a Tavor tips the scales at, and all that, and it would 110% be you're going to prison without a stamp. So,
well, and as Weird was saying, like the military M4, while it's a short barrel rifle, it's still, I believe it's still over the overall length requirement.
With the stock extended. With the stock collapse, I think it may fall under, because it's a 14.5-inch barrel. But yeah, the standard Tavor with a 16-inch barrel, is that 16-inch? 16.5-inch barrel, pardon me, is 26.125 inches long. So yeah, it's a 26, not 27. I don't know where that number came from. Yeah, so it's an eighth of an inch over the 26-inch minimum overall length.
And
that's by giving the barrel an extra half inch.
And going on Wikipedia here, it says that the M4 carbine with the 14.5-inch barrel overall length with the stock fully extended is 33 inches. With the stock fully collapsed, 29 and 3/4.
Oh, so it's actually longer, even collapsed, than a Tavor.
Correct.
Yeah.
So and that is an SBR.
And that,
well, I mean, it's a machine gun, so SBR doesn't apply.
Yes, but everyone, like, I know a whole bunch of people that have like M forgeries. A ton of them are veterans, and they just they wanted to mock up
16-inch barrel
gun like they got it. And so they'll have a 14.5-inch barrel, and then they'll attach a muzzle device, and they'll have it pinned and welded. So therefore, it's now a permanent fixture of the barrel. So therefore, it counts.
Right. Or they'll get the 16-inch barrel and put a small muzzle device on it, so it's only slightly over. And
I know a few people who actually just went and got it stamped.
Yeah. Any of those three solutions.
Yeah,
to get the one they want.
Either way, the point I'm making is that it's.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were making a point.
Bastard. But it's super duper stupid. It's a no-brainer. But
yeah,
maybe they're going to give it a good leaving alone. But I would say that one thing to look at, again, I'm very much with Erin in the fact that I am not holding my breath on this, but with the appointment of Kash Patel as the interim director of the ATF, as also being the director of the FBI,
and Dan Bongino as the assistant director of the FBI.
Yeah,
I don't know how much influence he would have on this type of thing.
He's doing some stuff at the ATF. I haven't heard anything specific enough to actually report on it, but I have heard.
Dan Bongino has been extremely pro Second Amendment for years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Outspoken, even during the Clinton administration, which caused him some problems.
So I found something, and I realized I didn't put it in the show notes, but we were talking about Kash Patel and the ATF, and something from last week, and there's going to be, the feedback is due in 2 days. The Justice Department is considering, for whatever that's worth, merging the ATF and the DEA together.
I had heard a rumor of that, but I didn't have any sourcing of anything even remotely official to go by.
Well, this is from Reuters, which is somewhat official.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not expecting us to debate it.
Right.
But just you mentioned that, and I thought I'd sort of sneak this in as it's something to keep an eye on as it develops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually rather concerning because the DEA has long been known for its fast and loose interpretation of the law.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine they have far more resources than the ATF does.
Yeah, what most people don't realize is the ATF is actually a fairly small agency compared to most other federal agencies, especially federal law enforcement. But let's go on to something a little bit more positive. Next item on our list.
Come on, Weird.
Yeah, this is something really, really cool. So it's a it's kind of a two-parter. I originally found this through William Kirk of Washington Gun Law. He had a great video encapsulating this on the fact that maybe Trump is pro-gun. Again, with Erin, I'm very skeptical.
So here's my position on that. I don't think that Trump is pro-gun. I don't think that Trump is strongly anti-gun.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he is basically taking the temperature.
Yeah.
And the temperature is currently pro-gun.
Which, given the fact that we're a republic, that's technically kind of how it should be. It should be that our elected officials, we shouldn't really give a crap what their personal views are, because they're going to listen to the constituents and they're going to act as their representative,
as they should. Yeah.
Yes, but
but
so there's two stories. They both have, well, one's got a much broader scope, but of course we're only going to focus on the Second Amendment side of this. But
the Second Amendment side of what, Weird?
The U.S. Department of Justice announced Second Amendment pattern or practice investigation into California's Los Angeles County. And essentially this is Pam Bondi. So another person that Erin, you've got good reason to be very skeptical on the Second Amendment support of Pam Bondi.
I have opinions, yes.
Give us the elevator speech on why you opposed Pam Bondi being recommended as the AG.
I feel like I've mentioned this before, but okay. The two salient points are she was state attorney general when Zimmerman went to trial. And she could have quashed that, and she didn't. Now, maybe it was because our governor told her not to, but either way, I didn't like it. And then there's the fact that shortly after Parkland, I'm not sure what the order was, but she came up with red flag laws, and Trump was there, and he supported her, and shortly before or shortly after, is when he said the phrase, take the guns first, due process second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I don't trust her when it comes to the Second Amendment. But on the other hand, it doesn't mean that I can trust her to always do the wrong thing either. It's just, gotta see.
And in the linked article, the quote, "This Department of Justice will not stand idly by while states and localities infringe on the Second Amendment rights of ordinary law-abiding citizens," said Attorney General Pamela Bondi. "The Second Amendment is not a second-class right, and under my watch, the department will actively enforce the Second Amendment just like it actively enforces other fundamental constitutional rights." Big words.
Yeah, the words are
lives
great.
up to them.
Mm-hmm.
Attorney General Bondi hopes that states and localities will voluntarily embrace their duty to protect the Second Amendment rights of their citizens, but if necessary, today's announcement will be the first of many similar investigations, lawsuits, or other actions involving other localities in California, the state of California itself, and any other states or localities that insist on unduly burdening or effectively denying the Second Amendment rights of their ordinary law-abiding citizens.
Did we actually say how long Los Angeles County was denying or delaying the gun permit process?
Somebody
18
did.
month is what's mentioned above in the article.
Yes, I just didn't recall if we had said that in our discussion. I didn't think we had.
We had not, no.
Yeah.
And could you repeat that, David? Because I was talking over you, sorry.
It's okay. Near the top, I guess, of the article. Yeah. It says, recent federal court decision found that the law and facts were clearly in favor of two private plaintiffs who challenged the lengthy 18-month delays that the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department had imposed when processing their concealed handgun license applications. I know that Costas Moros has talked about the over $1,000 worth of fees.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that was Los Angeles County or another California county.
I mean, honestly, I would believe that.
Pardon? I'm sorry, Erin.
I think I would believe that of practically any California county.
Yeah. But it mentions many California localities appear to be imposing additional burdens beyond those required by California state law, including by subjecting ordinary law-abiding Californians to expensive fees and lengthy wait times associated with applications for concealed handgun licenses. Well, I know some folks in New York who it's taken over 14 months to get their handgun license application processed. And New York state law says you got 6 months.
And there was also, I will add that Costas on Twitter also had a bit where someone was complaining about the fact that people were getting all concerned about it when there's more important things, what do they say?
I'm pretty sure it was something involving human rights.
Yes.
Because that prompted me to go, is anyone going to tell him that the right to self-defense is a human right?
Yeah. Yeah, specifically the line that he says is someone's talking about all the things that we were just talking about. He's, sheesh, imagine spending your time advocating for gun rights versus something far more precious like human civil rights. And it was what again. That's a human right, and I also responded to this, which is he's ignoring the abject horror when the police are openly breaking the law. It's
you and I had a brief discussion in another channel about gang activities, and I don't remember exactly how you phrased it, but it was something along the lines of that corrupt law enforcement is the worst gang or something like that.
Yeah.
There are no worse thugs than government thugs, and corrupt Leo is part of that.
Yes.
Was what you said, and that was very pertinent.
And that's the really, really scary part, because again, who do you call the police on when the people that are breaking the law are the police?
Yeah.
And so it's good to see this going on. And again, did Derry see this being like this is a straight up civil rights violation, and have fun maintaining your highways without our help until you fix this stuff.
Yeah. And the if you replaced firearms and permits and such with voting and voter registration, people would be burning down cities over that.
Yeah.
Or applying it to the First or the Fourth Amendment.
Oh, sure.
You
are free to practice whatever religion you want. However, before you can join a congregation, you have to apply for a permit from the federal government that will take a certain amount of time, and then and only then are you allowed to join that congregation. If you change congregations, you have to inform us within 30 days.
Sir, I'd like to search your house for any incriminating evidence at this time, unless you can present me your Fourth Amendment permit.
Basically, there are so many stories of people getting pulled over where that's literally what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not literally the Fourth Amendment permit part, but I want to search your vehicle. I don't consent to a search. I'm detaining you.
Yeah.
Why am I under arrest? You're not under arrest. You're being detained. But
the argument is that in the end, those people could always legally challenge it, and there's all sorts of fun and games that they do, like police.
They might get cleared of the charges, but they're still taking the ride. The process is the punishment.
Mm-hmm.
And the magic trick for vehicle searches is they will find some reason to throw you in the back of the squad car and take you to jail, and now your vehicle is abandoned at the side of the road. So for highway safety, they will have your vehicle towed. And if they're going to put your vehicle in an impound lot, it is important for them to inventory your property so that you can say, "Oh my God, my Fabergé Easter egg was in the back of the car. Where is it now?"
Fabergé egg, not Fabergé Easter egg.
Okay. That can be for Easter too.
Although that would be hysterical. A Fabergé Easter egg hunt. We are approaching the season.
You're bougie. But and so to dovetail in with this, this was an executive order again.
Yep.
Please quit it with the executive orders and all that, though. For this instance,
don't quit it with the executive orders. Keep the executive orders coming. Just follow them up with legislation.
Yeah, that's a great line, and this actually seems to be actually a pretty good use for an executive order, because essentially it's doing a very, very similar idea of we're just deploying various people to accomplish a task, and it's called making the District of Columbia safe and beautiful, which, let me tell you, it is a lovely area, so long as you're in the right areas. But
parts of it are absolutely beautiful. Other parts much less so.
Yes. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that I am not at all going to touch on for the sake of this show, because number one, there's a lot going on here.
It's a lot of text.
You can read it in the show notes, but specifically I am looking at section 3. It's 5, but it's like the second 5 in the section. No, that's
section 3C5.
Okay, thank you, Erin.
Collaborating with appropriate local government entities to provide assistance to increase the speed and lower the cost of processing concealed carry license requests in the District of Columbia.
Huzzah.
Yes.
This is very good. Now, one. I mean, the California one actually is probably the one to watch, because this is the District of Columbia, so therefore it is essentially federal ground.
It's a federal enclave.
Exactly. So whatever happens here, those of us say in Massachusetts or New York or Illinois or wherever they mess with you and do horrible things to your rights, it doesn't have a direct application as much as what they're doing in California will, but it's still a very, very interesting precedence. And it also, if this goes as we are hoping, and it is not just smoke and mirrors or virtue signaling, it would be a very, very nice step in the direction of how this administration feels about gun owners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything else. We will be watching this, and we will be reporting on as they're implemented in both the California and or LA County and the District of Columbia, and if it spreads into place else.
I've got some folks in New York that could use a talking to. You've got some folks in Massachusetts that could use a talking to.
Mm-hmm. All right, the next story on the list. This is a follow-up to a story that Erin and I covered on a previous episode, and it's actually pretty interesting. So we covered a story that was Colorado was essentially pushing for a semi-automatic ban. I was like, oh God, this is one of those like super duper duper left field type bills that's not going to get anywhere. And Erin had read the article much more closely than I had because tradition.
Yes.
Yeah.
And and noted that oh no, it's gaining a lot of ground. And
now passed through both.
Yeah,
it's going to the governor's desk at the time of this recording. It has not yet been signed into law, but there is zero evidence that is not going to happen.
Well, I mean, literally the second paragraph is that he's saying that he will sign it.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it that he will be signing?
Yes, and this is there. And so it is. This is the bill that started off as the semi-auto ban. It has moved on and has been watered down, is specifically stated in this article here, in the fact that it is now essentially you're going to need a permit to purchase semi-automatic rifles. Is it handguns as well? I'm trying to remember.
Yes.
The bill would prohibit people from buying the otherwise banned weapons, most semi-automatic rifles, as well as some semi-automatic pistols and shotguns, unless they get approved by their county sheriff and complete up to 12 hours of training, according to the article. And it would give the sheriffs broad authority to deny applications from people seeking to buy otherwise banned firearms. Those who are rejected, however, could file a lawsuit seeking to reverse a sheriff's decision.
And by the way, that 12 hours of training, you have to, if you wish to continue to have the privilege of buying a modern firearm, you have to have had that training done within 5 years of purchasing said item. So,
does it have to be renewed every so often?
So after 5 years, if it's been 6 years since you've taken the class, you have to take the class again if you want to buy another gun.
Yeah, if you want to buy, once the gun goes into your possession, you're fine. So it's not quite
okay. So it's not that you have to redo the training every 5 years to maintain possession of existing purchases.
So far,
right.
I was going to say thank you, Erin.
But to simply have the to have the license to purchase, you have to. The license to purchase is good for 5 years, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is also like a super duper pain in the butt for I didn't think that I was going to need any more guns. and all of that. me with I am very, very happy with my car PM45 as my pocket carry pistol. And then Sig P365 enters the chat. Oh boy. Yep. I'm going to have to go buy one of those as soon as it's mass approved. And I did. But, and so suddenly when that sort of stuff happens, it's one of those like, oh, now I've got to get this long class. Like it could take you from the moment you suddenly decide that you need a gun to get this. It may take you probably over a year to actually get your hands on the gun, because there's probably going to be wait lists for these classes. Because again, this isn't just, they're not doing some sort of turnkey business here. They're not saying it's some pre-existing
program.
Yeah, they're developing a brand new program. And so it's going to be done by likely Colorado licensed instructors. So they're going to need to. They also
said that it's not going to go into effect until sometime in 2026, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a full year from, I believe, August, if I remember correctly.
I thought I saw that in there.
Yeah, I saw it too.
And now we're trying to sift through all the squiggly bits to try to find that.
August of 2026. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, and I mean,
so folks, buy as many as you want now.
Along those lines, there have been multiple times that I've thought about, I'd like to get my hunting license. I've never gone hunting, and I've been I have a couple open invitations to go with people. It's like, okay, yeah. So I know I need to get the hunting license, which requires going through a hunter education course, which until recently you had to do in person. And every time I looked in the state of Tennessee, there's a few hunters, and every time I looked, it was I can find a class that has spots open in 3 months in Memphis or, similar. It was the months out and 100 miles away from me. And like I said, this is in Tennessee, where obviously there is a firearms culture and hunting is fairly popular.
Yeah, and that's similar idea to like the Massachusetts. I mean, right now Massachusetts just requires the NRA basic pistol or something similar, and so it's one of those you can go up to New Hampshire, you can go to Maine, you could go anywhere that there's a training class. You can go on vacation. You could be in California, and you could find a place that's giving NRA basic pistol. Get yourself a certificate, and then within it needs to be so many days old. It needs to be under so many days old for it to be submitted. So it needs to probably take it within the last few months. And all that, but as soon as it's good. And even then, like my club does, I believe they do the class twice a month, and it has been, full every single time for the last decade. Like no available seats whatsoever. Every single one, everybody was on a wait list. So it's going to be a cluster, because there's only going to be so many instructors who are going to be able to do this. Colorado is a very large state, and there's, you have the, Boulder, Denver area that's fairly high population, but there's lots of wide open space throughout the rest. So to actually get yourself to a class with a certified instructor, you may be expected to drive a while, might be worthwhile, and it's 12 hours of classwork. So congratulations, you're also getting a hotel room. This is, even though this is considerably better than essentially just hey, if it takes a detachable magazine, then it's illegal now in Colorado. This is still pretty bad. And I mean, it has an avenue for a Supreme Court challenge, but again, we've been talking about why that's not necessarily something to count on.
Yeah, I started to say this is definitely going to be challenged. It's just a question of how far it gets and how long it takes.
Oh yeah,
and the lawsuits are already lined up.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
I think the GOA has already announced that they've got the lawyers already set.
Yeah, as soon as the initial bill, and Erin and I were talking about it when it was just starting. Yeah, no, they were drafting the lawsuit up, and they just, all right, we're going to make some quick edits before we can submit this because the laws changed, the text has changed again.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that SAF and FPC are also doing the same.
Oh yeah,
I would imagine. Yeah,
the more the merrier.
Yep, but yeah, this is and not only
discriminated caucus gets in on this too.
Yeah, bad as it is. Number one, this was presented as a semi-auto ban. Don't think they aren't going to come back.
No,
again,
no.
They're moving the legislative Overton window.
Yeah, we need to do the same thing as Second Amendment people. Like, we get all hyped up about, oh, this bill isn't perfect, or oh, we want this or that. Just get it in there. I know, Erin, you've complained about the Florida constitutional carry bill that was passed a few years ago, and the fact that no, it's not a perfect bill.
I mean, I didn't really complain. It was like it could have been much better, but it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, we should always be happy with moving the ball down the field in the direction that we want to.
Oh, definitely.
And these guys are moving the ball down the field in the direction we don't want to, and it does.
And they've been doing it for over 100 years. We're not going to get it back quickly.
And this one, the nature of how the bill was submitted and what's going on, like this is something we need to very much worry about, because again, they just wanted to ban everything, and they weren't able to quite get it past there, but now they've got this piece of crap. And so maybe they won't get it the full way the next time, but maybe they'll pick another little margin to cut away at, and they'll just slowly hack away. The 1994 assault weapons ban was designed as a full semi-auto ban, but they had to, why do you think, people joke about, how many drive-by bayonetings have there been? Why do they care that there's a bayonet lug on the gun? Because they needed to differentiate it from semi-auto hunting rifles so they could get hunters on board. And hunters absolutely supported this bill because it was going after bad rifles that aren't used in hunting and aren't any good for hunting. They are, but that was the propaganda, and got them to go through is their semi-automatic rifles and shotguns were protected, and the AR-15s and AKs and FALs and all of that were banned. And guess what? We weren't using them, so who cares?
Yeah, and I've definitely noticed lately there's been there's been a shift to talking about how semi-auto firearms in general are evil and masculars, etc.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well,
so only the police should have them, say people who distrust the police and sometimes say that they're all bastards.
And that we should defund them. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Since this just dropped before the show, I thought it would be worthwhile throwing it in there just for, this is, if you're in the state of Massachusetts, go on into the show notes and check it out. But if you're in a gun-friendly state, it might be worthwhile to read this as well, just because we need to be vigilant. I always point out the fact that, like, Massachusetts made me into the Second Amendment advocate that I am today, and I probably would be a much more complacent gun owner if I still lived in Maine. But at the same time, I try to let people know. I'm trying to give some of the fire in my belly to all of you out there in the free states, just so you can be as much of an advocate as I am without having to taste the sting of horrible, horrible gun laws. But yeah, so this is the
and on a similar note, New York definitely aided my progression to Second Amendment absolutist.
So this is a write-up from the Gun Owners Action League talking about the assault style firearms ban, and that is the word that they're using. It's no longer an assault weapons ban in the state of Massachusetts. It's an assault style firearm, which I gotta say I appreciate, because it's very 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 much like the processed cheese food. Like when you start seeing weasel words like that thrown in there, it's openly saying, yes, we know that this is not what this is, but we're going to be pretending like it is. It's not an assault weapon. Again, it was Josh Sugarman who coined the term assault weapon, specifically making it sound like assault rifle, which is also a very, very specific term describing full auto military rifles and intermediate calibers.
Select fire, not full auto.
Correct. And all of that, and the whole point was to make it sound like my AR-15 or the AR-15 or AK that somebody has at home is the same as the stuff that's over in the jungles and deserts of the world that are fighting wars, and they're not. So just a quick go through. So again, we've got this law codified essentially two kind of grandfather dates. Gone is the September 13th, 1994, which was the enacting of the federal assault weapons ban. This law was enacted on August 1st, 2024. So that is another law, but there's also the July 20th, 2016, which I talked about on this show, and anybody else who was listening, was Mara Healey when she was Attorney General, her little edict that essentially said that guns were copycat firearms, and that meant whatever the hell she felt like. But it's also does codify into law her statement that she would not go after any gun owners that bought firearms in good faith that were illegal. So again, she stated that, the guns that I have in my safe that I bought fully complying with Massachusetts law. Well, Mara Healey said that the Massachusetts law wasn't being interpreted right, and I was breaking the law. But she said, because you bought it in good faith, I'm not going to go after you. Which again, it's not legally binding. So again, there was always the chance that I might get a knock on my door and I might get marched off to prison. Because not only do I own firearms she says are illegal, but also I registered with them. So I've straight up told the state that I own them. There's no denying it, but now that's codified into law. Now officially, if you have owned a quote unquote Massachusetts compliant firearm on or before July 20th, 2016, it is officially grandfathered in, and it is not applied to this. But this new system is going on it's going on 2 feature rifles. So it's, if it has 1 feature, it's okay. And the features they're going for are folding or telescoping stock, thumbhole stock, which was always originally a workaround.
New York did that as well with the SAFE Act.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Pistol grip, forward grip, or second protruding hand grip. So having a secondary grip on your firearm is now illegal. I wonder if that's if an angled grip counts or not. I may actually have a firearm that has one of those.
I mean, I would consider that protruding, but I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah. Let's see. Their bayonet lug is still in there. Grenade launcher is still in there. Again, I like to note, because many people don't realize this. When you think grenade launcher, you might think like an M203 style grenade launcher, or maybe one of these 37 millimeter flare projectors that can be affixed to a gun. That's not. Those are separate devices. Those are independent from the firearm. In fact, you're talking about rifle grenade spigots. So this is.
I like that word, spigot.
I do too, but this is something that really is only applying to much older firearms, because once those underbarrel grenade launchers became popular, the rifle grenades went away. Threaded barrel for a flash suppressor, muzzle brake, or similar feature. It doesn't specifically state flash suppressor at all. It just says that the threaded barrel is in fact a feature.
And the Carolyn McCarthy special, the shoulder thing that goes up.
Yes, a barrel shroud. Yeah, that was a great. Yeah, if you haven't seen that, it was Tucker Carlson was interviewing Carolyn McCarthy, who had introduced a bill that specifically banned firearms that had barrel shrouds. It was essentially a featureless rifle, or a one feature rifle thing, and one of the ones was a barrel shroud. And her definition of barrel shroud, per her own law, would essentially ban every semi-automatic firearm with a detachable magazine. Because this one, if you've got a fixed magazine on it, so my SKS with its bayonet lug, and actually, technically speaking, if you had like a Yugo SKS that has the grenade launcher spigot and threaded barrel, that would be fine so long as you have the fixed magazine in place. But yeah, Carolyn McCarthy could not define barrel shroud for Tucker Carlson, even though
when pressured, she said that a famous line:
"Shoulder thing that goes up."
Shoulder thing that goes up.
So my grammarian wants to say she did define it. She just defined it incorrectly.
She did, and
way beyond incorrectly, in my opinion. But yeah.
And furthermore, obviously, these people are just the lizard people that are doing the magic dance. But it just shows that,
as friend of the show with common name regularly says, their ignorance is perceived as a virtue.
That is true. Yeah. Yep. No, you'll often hear, people say, "Oh, I couldn't tell you what an AR-15 is. Couldn't tell the difference between an AR-15 and an AK-47. I just know that they should all be banned. I know they should be illegal."
And your fixation on using this terminology just shows how wrong you are.
Yeah.
So what I like to do in that case is draw the comparison to male legislators who aren't doctors drafting legislation about female reproductive choices.
Mm-hmm.
And say, okay, if that's what you believe, then you've got to be okay with male legislators passing female reproductive laws, because not knowing about it is a virtue. And then, they don't like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, that does require a certain amount of intellectual consistency from them, which basically none of them seem to have.
And so we've also got there's semi-automatic pistols, a device that includes at least two features, and it does not specify center fire. So this can be rim fire. Is a magazine feeding device that attaches to the pistol outside the pistol grip. So this is one of two Tech 9 features that are actually the Tech 9 doesn't have the feeds through the pistol grip, doesn't it, Oddball?
No, it doesn't.
No, the magazine's in front of the trigger guard. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No, I was getting confused. I was confusing the Mac with the Tech, but the Tech 9 seems to be the gun that is frequently targeted for this. Second hand grip or protruding grip that can be held by the non-trigger hand. That's actually been defined into the NFA. Threaded barrel, accepting flash suppressor, forward hand grip or silencer. So now threaded barrel pistols are going to be a problem in the or can be a problem in the state. I guess you can have just the threaded barrel and the threaded barrel, and that's fine. And then a shroud that encircles either part or all part of the barrel, excluding the slide that encloses the barrel. So the slide does not count as a barrel shroud, so good on them for that. But yeah, they're going after the Tech 9 again for that one, because it's got that well-known barrel shroud.
I mean, the Tech 9 is out of production and has been since 2001.
Yes, but that's kind of the boogeyman.
But they don't know that.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
and even if they did know that, they wouldn't accept it.
Yeah, it's been at least 60 years since someone has made a rifle with a grenade launcher spigot on the muzzle. So,
as new production, yeah.
And if you've looked at our legislators, they are very similar to all of that. Many of them in their 80s. Let's see. And then, they've got the semiautomatic shotgun, folding or telescoping stock, thumb hole stock or pistol grip, protruding grip for the non-trigger hand, and the capacity to accept a detachable feeding device. So they're Oddball, your detachable magazine shotgun. No bueno.
Yep.
And then they go through, they've got a whole bunch of names they've specifically named a bunch of guns, automatic Kalashnikov or all models AK rifle, the Israeli Uzi, Beretta AR-70, Colt AR-15, FNFAL, FNLAR, and FNC. So they named.
Was
all
that the
those.
gun used in Heat by Al Pacino?
Yes, it was. Yeah, Al Pacino had an FNC.
You know that meme, right?
What's that?
Name the gun Al Pacino used in Heat and it shows a picture of them at the bank ambush.
Yep.
And the running joke is that it's anything other than an FNC.
Oh, okay. I've seen those. Yeah, wrong answers only.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
Wait, did you say the Beretta 70 is specifically named?
AR-70, yeah.
The AR-70, okay.
Yeah. What's the Beretta 70?
It's a pistol. Isn't it
it's a 22 pistol? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My buddy has one of those. Those are really nice.
Yeah.
Is it the 70, the 22, and the 71, the 32?
I think so, yeah.
And they haven't made them for like 50 years.
Right.
And the AR-70 is one of those. Are there any of those in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's just, I think many of those, they also specifically state the Intertech Tech 9, Tech DC 9, and Tech 22. Do you have a Tech 22, Oddball?
No, I don't. Adam had one. And if you used high velocity 22, after a couple rounds, the top strap would just eject.
It was a bonus feature.
Yeah.
It was self-disassembling.
Oh, and they have the magic one. Any revolving cylinder shotguns are illegal.
Yeah.
Because the Street Sweeper is a scary name.
Never mind that. Well, I mean, there's the I guess that would hit the whatever the rifle version of the Judge is.
Oh yeah.
Circuit Judge? Is that it?
Yeah,
what it's called?
I don't know.
The Rossi Circuit Judge, yeah.
Because the Street Sweeper has been declared on a federal level as a
destructive device.
And well, everybody in the firearms world went, so you're saying I can't own that? Well, it upsets me that I can't own it now, but really that's fine.
I was never particularly interested in owning it until now.
Yeah, same with the Terminator, the slam fire 12 gauge.
Is that the one that Ian declared was the worst gun he'd ever fired?
There was.
Yes. Yeah.
I would like
and that
to
man has fired a lot of bad guns.
Though the Striker Street Sweeper did rank very, very highly because it was burning the crap out of his forearm because it doesn't have a blast deflector. Or at least it doesn't have one for a left-handed person.
Right.
I would like to give honorable mention to the Pancor jackhammer.
Yes.
The gun that should have been more than a meme.
Yeah.
Or the Spaz 12 that's also been declared not to have any sporting purpose, and it's just
or the USAS 12.
I will have you know that the Spaz 12 is the perfect shotgun for velociraptor hunting.
It is.
But I specified the Pancor because it is technically a revolver shotgun.
It is a revolver shotgun.
It is. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, it is.
But it does say here. I'd have to look in the text of the law specifically. But I imagine the guys at Goal are pretty good at at digging through this, but says exemption. Any gun is exempt if it's operated by manual bolt, pump, lever, or slide action. So my Mossberg 590 is safe with its bayonet lug.
For now.
Yeah. And I got a few other stuff in there, but it doesn't specifically say that a revolver is considered a manual action. So in fact, revolvers may fall under this this rule. Not that many revolvers will actually do it well, because they don't accept attachable magazines. But then again, how can a revolving cylinder shotgun? It doesn't have a detachable magazine.
So I could argue that a revolver has a detachable magazine.
Please go ahead.
It's especially single action revolvers, say my Heritage Arms or especially my NAA mini revolver has a detachable magazine.
Yes, I mean
what's a magazine?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think
a device that holds ammo, right?
Yep. I'm interested in getting a black powder cap and ball revolver that has a removable magazine. Remington 1858.
What's a revolver cylinder?
Yep.
I would argue that the revolver cylinder contains no springs, so therefore it's a clip, not a magazine. It is a revolving end block.
Oh, you son of a bleep.
Oh, anti-gunners, you made us do this.
This is all your fault.
Yeah, so that's another gem here in Massachusetts for the guns that are banned here and not allowed, and all that. And we're still again waiting on what our training requirements are going to be. I'm trying to remember if I mentioned this in a previous show, but I mentioned there was a shooting in town, and my neighbor texted me and said, "Yeah, all we got is our BB gun, and I'm not feeling that's enough tonight." And so I may want to get my permit. I started telling her what was required. She goes, "Oh, that's not as bad as I thought." I think I'd scared the dickens out of her into thinking what she would need to do to. Or I think she didn't realize that she could come to the range with me and shoot without needing a permit. And so I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I went over it and I said to her, "Look, we can go to the range whenever you, but it might be a good idea for you just to go find a place where you can take a training class, because you're going to need to get your application in before the August deadline, because otherwise you're going to have to get in for the new class, whatever that may be, because we don't know yet." But the theme for all of this, when anti-gun states pass new laws, they're bad.
Yes indeed.
Yeah. And I'm going to do a quick moving around of stories, because this is, I think, fits in well for laws that are bad and stupid. Again, this is us going over to UK, and I am not commenting about UK because we don't care when the Brits talk about how we handle guns. So guess what? We don't care how the Brits handle their stuff and go through, but
we can always laugh at beans on toast.
Yes. Well, oh God. I would be totally fine if it was beans on toast how we make beans. Either our lovely people in the desert Southwest with how you guys make beans, or actually, well, or just the general idea of New England baked beans or all of that. Those will work good on toast. But what the Brits call beans, yeah.
How's that joke go? The British Empire went to war and conquered nations in order to get spices, and then used none of them on its cuisine.
It decided they didn't like
more or less, yeah. Yeah. There are people of English descent who consider salt spicy.
I mean, I certainly know people up here in New England where putting fresh ground black pepper on something gets whoop. That's exciting.
But you named the place New
New England. Yes. No,
Yeah.
it's
appropriate.
true. But I always point out, like, if it's happening over there are people over here going, you know what? That's a great idea. And it's also shows just the general mentality, but to the most ridiculous level, because they've already banned their guns. And guess what? The crime
and
hasn't
most
stopped.
knives.
Yeah. And they've banned most knives, but now they're going on something new here, which is in August. There's going to be a national ban that will outlaw ninja swords.
But how can you see them if they're being used by ninjas?
Exactly. Smoke bomb.
It'll become illegal to possess, manufacture, import, or sell ninja swords in the UK. And I was looking through this article trying to find, there it is. What is a ninja sword? A ninja-style sword is typically defined as a blade measuring between 14 and 24 inches with a single straight cutting edge and a tanto-style point. According to the Home Office, it must have a straight primary edge, a secondary straight edge, and a blunt spine. The tanto-style point features a sharp angle of less than 90 degrees between the two cutting edges with a greater than 90-degree angle to the spine. Reverse tanto designs, where the angles are flipped, are also included in the definition.
So because I am a massive nerd and weeb, I wish to point out for the record that this does not outlaw katana or wakizashi, because those are famous for having a curved blade. The law specifies a straight blade.
I was thinking the same thing.
A curved blade and an integral tip into that curvature, as opposed to the properly stated ninja toe, which is again a completely straight short sword with what you would call before.
I would say intermediate sword. They're usually longer than a wakizashi but shorter than a katana.
That's true, and you can decide, where a short sword starts and a long sword ends.
Wait, does that make a ninja toe the assault rifle of swords?
I mean, it absolutely does. It absolutely does, and it's
thanks. I hate it.
Yes, it had we call it the tanto style point. In Western knife craft, it's referred to as a chisel tip. So they're going straight for the actual ninja toe, and again, katana wakizashi not included in this, which is really dumb.
Nor is any kind of saber or cutlass.
Yep. Or again, chef knives, which if you look at the junk on the bunk photos that the various police patting themselves on the back with all the fact, like 90% of the knives that they are taking off of people. And these are actually, I mean, you've got the screwdrivers.
Not the ones that are put into the bins. These are the ones that are seized from people.
Yeah. Not the screwdrivers and the spoons and other
and children's cutlery.
Exactly, that are getting grabbed from somebody getting pinched and them deciding to throw on charges. But like legitimately, these are gang members and they're planning on stabbing people if they, if the need arises with this. They're cheap bargain basement garbage paring knives. That is that is the go-to. That is the Glock 19 of street thug stabbery. I
was going to say the kitchen cutlery version of gas station knives.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just go rent an Airbnb, go into the knife drawer there. That's what they're using.
Yep.
So yeah, this is just
beans on toast.
Yeah,
when
this is
you learn.
So again, we're not going to be passing any judgment. You guys shouldn't care what we're thinking about whatsoever. We are talking strictly to the Americans out there, and to the Canadians, because Canadians still have a few guns left, and all
we're not going to necessarily judge them, but we are going to mock them.
Correct. But it's one of those, you guys essentially banned pretty much all the guns.
And the act of self-defense. And
you've banned the knives. It was already like they're talking about a guy, let's see, Ronan Kanda, who was
murdered in a mistaken identity attack.
Ugh, even better.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, like, the dude that, I mean, number one, murder's illegal. Two, carrying a blade, no matter what it is, in England, outside of the essentially your Swiss Army Victronox, outside of that like specific knife, anything that's got a locking blade, anything that's got a blade over 1.5 inches or whatever the measurement is on that super duper small Swiss Army knife, anything that's outside of that parameter is illegal to carry. So a big old sword is just as illegal. But now they're going to,
and even on top of that, the mayor of London famously said that there was no reason for anyone to carry a knife, period, in the city, and that they were going to go after them.
Yep. So, somebody who's, I don't know, a construction worker who might need to open containers, cut strapping. Yeah, it doesn't need a knife.
And then, it's one of those.
That attitude was, when I left New York, that attitude was growing in the major urban areas of that state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I worked in research labs,
mm-hmm.
and I was using my pocket knife every single day because there's sealed boxes to open. There's stuff going on. It's a very, very useful tool. Why would anyone carry one? Because I use it constantly.
Yeah.
And then, but this is also banning possession. It's not saying, it's making it more illegal to run around like a ninja. No, it is like if you've got a wall hanger in your rec room, and again, most of these swords, I guarantee, are absolute pieces of garbage, including the one that killed Mr. Kanda. They're trash. They're not great, and all that. Is it dangerous? Yes, but you know what? So is a carpentry ruler. It's
a claw hammer is a very, very dangerous weapon.
Exactly. And so but this is banning the mere possession of it. So if you've got one of these, you got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if
you
there's
can't
permits,
sell it because no one can buy it.
I don't know if there's permits or exemptions. I mean, it's one of those, the Brits.
You got a license for that permit?
Yeah. I mean, Europeans are big on HEMA. And,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Who is?
Europeans.
Thank you.
Thank you. People from Europe are big on HEMA, which is, what does that stand for, Oddball?
Historic European martial arts.
Okay, yeah.
Scala Gladiatoria has talked a few times about his sword collection, and there's a decent amount already of, you have, if you want to own a sword in England, it has to be an antique, and you have to go through this, that, and the other, to legally own a sword. So,
and I mean that's something to be said. Is like, this is their cultural heritage. I mean, we as Americans, we talk about the various things that we allow natives to do. I mean, we all have all the way up from the we allow traditional whale hunts from certain native tribes because they historically were whalers, and so we allow them to do it with the traditional stuff.
Community survived.
Yeah, it's these are protected species, but under a controlled hunt, we're not going to drive the whales extinct to let a few natives do that, and they're celebrating their heritage. And we often don't think about it because we think often about cultural heritage in the terms of underprivileged heritages that are being stomped out. But that's really actually what's happening here is the heritage of the European people that they lived that world, and you're making that connection to their past illegal, and that's just that is really sad. Especially, it's one of those like, okay, it's one thing on the fact that, Erin can't own the rifle that her father carried in Vietnam, which, how cool would that be? But you'd have to have a reasonable facsimile because it was select fire. But so we've already had that kind of stripped away from us, but it's one of those if you had a great grandfather that fought in the Civil War, you could own a cavalry saber that was like theirs.
Actually, my great-grandfather fought in the Civil War.
Oh,
okay.
No member of my family set foot on this continent for another 20 plus years after that ended.
And he had a proper old-fashioned name, which I have not seen anywhere else. Lemuel.
Oh yeah, I've seen that name in history references.
Okay, that's the first time I've seen it.
It's not. I don't think it was common even then.
We need to bring it back. That was.
It's an Old Testament biblical name.
That was one of the names that I suggested to my wife if we were to have a daughter, was my great grandmother's name, which was Irene, because I felt that it was just old fashioned enough that it was moving from it was just old enough that all the Irenes of yore have died off, and so it's kind of it goes back to being new again.
You'd be telling her you'd be telling her come on a lot.
Yes.
I mean,
or wishing her to sleep well.
I love you guys. I also there was a family name that several of the women on my wife's side of the family had that I suggested also, which is there's several Dorcases on my wife's side.
Made famous by Larry Correa.
Yes, Dorcas from the Monster Hunter International series. That is in fact a real name, and there were several.
I know a Dorcas, one of my students for shooting classes.
There, also around the corner from the house I grew up in was a street called Dorcas Drive, which I just have always found hysterical.
Yeah.
Is there a pudding shop on Dorcas Drive? I have to admit, when I first met my student Dorcas and we got to know each other, I asked her if she liked chocolate pudding. She said yes, but it wasn't as enthusiastic as I was hoping.
I mean, who doesn't like chocolate pudding?
Al Qaeda.
Wow, that was quick. Bravo. Well done.
All right, let's pull this back. We're getting close to the end. This one, Erin, you posted a while back. I don't know if there was anything else that you saw significant of it, but homeowner fatally shoots 3 teens who fired at him in a robbery attempt.
If you'll stop talking. So this is a defensive gun use that, well, I guess it depends on how you feel about perpetrators being shot, but no innocents were harmed, at least physically, and everything worked out. So here's what happened in Georgia, and this happened at 4 a.m, which is a stupid time. You know the saying, don't go stupid places with stupid people at stupid times. Nothing good comes at 4 a.m. And so there were a couple of people out in their front yard, and they were approached by 3 teenagers, 2 16-year-olds and a 15-year-old. All of them were wearing masks. One of them had a Glock pistol, and they brandished and then fired a handgun. It's believed that they wanted to rob the house, and they decided they were going to rob the people in front of the house first. So no one was hit by the teens, probably because they didn't know how to shoot a gun and had terrible shooting technique. And so the homeowner, who was later identified as a very nice man and a trucker, but he was very protective of his mother who lived in the house, and the newspaper doesn't say that his mother was there, but they specified a woman was one of the residents in the house. He brought a bigger gun. He went into his house and he brought out, I think they said an AR-15, but it was definitely a rifle.
It was a semi-automatic rifle of some form.
Yeah. And so he returned fire. He returned accurate fire. He hit the 3 assailants, and there was no note about him hitting anyone else. So shooting at 4 a.m, I don't know the illumination conditions. I don't know, he might have been out there drinking. Who knows? But he hit what he was aiming at, and he didn't hit anyone else. Now the tragedy is that these 3 young people who made a terrible decision suffered for it, and they have died.
Yep, one right there and the other 2 at the hospital, I believe.
Something like that. It might have been the other way around, but yeah, none of them survived. And what's interesting is that, well, I don't know if this is interesting, but I want to point this out. Everyone involved was Black or African American or whatever the proper term is. So, in the article and in various newscasts, they have made a point to say the police have ruled out racial motivation because everyone was of the same race. And so this was a case of, hey, good firearm ownership by the Black community because this man had a rifle, he knew how to use it. And so I'm sorry that he has to live with this. I've never shot someone. I don't know what it's like, but from everything I've seen, read, and all the classes I've taken, that it does have a severe psychological impact on people, and he's got to live with that now. But he acted in defense of himself and others, and so that's laudable. And so when you've got... Well, anytime like this happens, you've always got the friends and family members who are saying, they didn't deserve to die. Why did you shoot to kill? And it's like...
These sweet little boys.
Yeah.
I think one of them.
And it was like, if they hadn't approached a house with a gun at 4 a.m. wearing masks and try to rob people, they would still be alive. So, call me a bad person. I cannot feel sympathy. They chose this. I have sympathy for the homeowner who has to deal with this now. But fortunately, everyone in his neighborhood is saying what a wonderful, lovely, nice person he is. And I don't just mean he was a nice person. There are people who are emphasizing this to the camera. This is a good man. And so he's got community support, which doesn't always happen, as we've seen, and that's going to be very, very necessary for him to move past this. And so, no greater point other than this was good firearms ownership in the Black community. This was excellent shooting. This was a clearly defined good shoot, and only the bad people got hurt. So...
Yeah.
And there will not be a repeat by those perpetrators, nor will they go to advanced criminal training.
This is also true.
Yeah. Although I recently found out that, unfortunately, the homeowner is now under the FBI definition of mass shooter.
Ooh.
I thought it was 4 or more. Is it 3 or more?
It was 4 or more. It changed in 2013 to 3 or more.
Oh, God.
That was a while ago. Okay, I thought, wow.
Yeah, it quietly changed, and nobody really talked about it. But under Obama, it changed to 3 or more, which is also why, if you see any graphs of mass shootings, there's talk about a sudden increase around that time.
Yeah,
because the definition changed.
This is one. So again, whenever you see those like statements on there have been 320 mass shootings since the beginning of this year and all that, and you go, that seems strange because we're still talking about whatever one happened, 6 months ago, versus other, we're still talking, Parkland and Sandy Hook are still being talked about, and those were ages ago.
Columbine.
Yep. And so
Columbine was nearly 30 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So you talk about how, all these shootings, but yet meanwhile, we're talking about all these old And that's because crap like this is sometimes considered a mass shooting.
Yeah, and sometimes the definition of the FBI will periodically update or change the definition of a crime, and sometimes it's very much required. Like, I think it was like 2003, they changed the definition of rape to something that much closer actually reflects what most people considered rape to actually be.
I think part of the definition included the term forced penetration.
The old definition was forced penetration with the trying to do this family friendly, using the male genitalia, forced penetration into the female genitalia. What was the old definition that had to happen, which most of us would consider. There are other things that would be considered rape that didn't specifically include that. So,
yeah. And I will also note that under no circumstances do you need to wait for you to be taking fire for you to use deadly force. But I will say for this homeowner, the fact that they did get at least one shot off at him before he returned fire and the fact that no one was hurt on his end is going to be a huge help to keep the vindictive DAs away.
Well, yes, I agree with what you said. You don't need to receive fire first, but if someone shoots at you, it paints you in a much better light when you return fire.
Correct.
The light has turned green.
Yes.
Yes. It has removed all doubt, because there's always a question of you see someone walk up the street and they've got a pistol in their hand and they're not looking particularly friendly. Well, do I go ahead and shoot them? Because certainly it's going to take them all but a half a second to bring the gun up and fire. But you don't know. But as soon as they brought the gun up and have fired, you know that they're not just holding on to it.
Yeah,
they didn't just have a holster malfunction.
Is that like a costume malfunction?
Yes.
Wardrobe malfunction was the term.
Wardrobe. Thank you. I couldn't remember that word. Words are hard.
And I've realized this is another Aaron Paulette story that fits nicely. You sent this to me before the show started, and you're just like, this was really, really harrowing. You want to take it away, Aaron?
Video that was oof.
Okay, so this is body cam footage of a Jacksonville, Florida sheriff's officer who got into a gunfight, and it's as close to a first-person perspective of getting, of being in a firefight as you're going to get, short of it actually happening. And so there's a lot that goes on in the video, and I just encourage people to watch it. But the premise here is that the officer, Officer Golding, tries to pull the suspect over for something traffic related, and the suspect, I'm not going to name him, he didn't stop, and he passed multiple places where he could have stopped safely in order to pull over. He decides to pull into a house in a residential area that has a security camera pointing at the driveway, and this is very helpful. And the officer gets out of the car, and the suspect opens his door and brings up his pistol, and they exchange shots. And the officer actually gets shot in his left foot. I was talking to Weird about it, and Weird said the officer does sort of a Max Payne dive backwards into a swale, which we talked about yesterday, or last podcast episode. Yeah, when I defined what a swale was. And then he retreated, went behind a fence, reloaded, and shot again. And from his perspective, because remember, the body cam is from his chest, it just looks like his gun is going around the fence and just firing. And so we see everything that happens, and then they go to the security camera footage of the cars in the driveway, but the audio from the original body cam is playing, so you know what happens when. And so the second time he shoots, from that perspective, you can see that he's shooting into the car, and he hits the suspect again and breaks a couple windows. And this is important. I don't know how the officer saw, but he saw that the suspect had a rifle. And when he shot into the car the second time, the suspect, it looked like he'd gotten the rifle out of the back seat and was trying to get out with it. I don't know what kind of weapon it was. Based upon what little I saw, I actually think it's a sub 2000, based upon the very distinctive front sight at the end of the barrel. And with this being Florida, that's not out of the question, but I don't know for certain. Also, the suspect was wearing body armor, and so that contributed to the longevity of the fight. There's something that's happened that is unusual, and I'm not sure what's going on, but after the suspect is hit, you can see his arm moving, but he can't seem to get out of the car before he bleeds out. And I don't know if he was hit and just lacked the strength. There are people who are speculating that he put the vest on and it got caught in the
seatbelt.
The seatbelt. Thank you. That is the term I was looking for. But it was interesting. And so, I mean, I do want to caution people that you are watching someone die on camera. And so if that's not your thing, then, well, of course it wouldn't be your thing. But I'm saying if that is upsetting to you, then don't watch. But for those of us who study defensive shootings, this is very interesting. And so, and finally, before I release it to the floor, the officer knows fairly quickly that he's been hit, but you can tell, or at least I think I can tell during the dialogue, because he's reporting in and he's shouting at bystanders to get away.
And that's where he finally loses his cool.
Yeah, it's not that he's been shot or shooting at people. It's because people, and I think they're kids. He's yelling at them to get out of the way, and he uses profanity, and I don't blame him. Yeah. But there's a certain point where it feels like the adrenaline wears off enough that he realizes he's shot and begins to be hurt. Because, when he's running around the fence, when he's reloading and shooting again, he's walking fine. It's only afterwards where he's pretty sure he's neutralized the guy and he's walking somewhere else. I'm not quite sure why he's called for backup, but then he starts limping, and then he decides he needs to not lie down, but get off his feet. And so it was interesting to me. Okay, this is the body in full survival mode, and now, okay, we're going to start feeling the pain. So just a really interesting video from my perspective.
Yeah, I was watching the home security camera video, and it looks like that the initial shots fired by the perpetrator were with a handgun.
Yes.
And then he transitions to, and I agree, it does look like the front end of a sub 2000. Mm-hmm. It has that very distinctive tower sight.
Yep.
And you can see he's struggling to get out of the car, and then the rounds start coming through the side window, and he goes back into the car. Shortly after that, he drops the long gun, and he's moving around in the car, but you obviously can't see any details. And then you see some more rounds impact the driver's side door window, and that second series of shots hitting the driver's side door window is when the officer is all the way across the lawn, leaning around the fence. So that is a long distance with a handgun.
Well, you can see when he gets out with a rifle, you kind of see him craning his neck because he's trying to see where the officer went to. Because
he's still aiming at the car at first.
Yeah, and all that, and then just as he doesn't, because the cop took a barricade position behind the fence. It's concealment, not cover, but concealment. Concealment can be really good because all that was probably poking out was his eye and his maybe his hand and shoulder.
Well, also
Right.
by using the fence like that, he was able to get a more stable shooting position.
Yeah, and let me tell you,
Yeah.
this officer was sending him in nice.
Yeah. I don't think any of the shots that he fired at the car went anywhere except through the open door or the car's driver's side window.
Yeah,
I don't know if any shots hit metal.
let's see.
Remarkable.
Yeah, I'm not there. There might be a few spots in the rear quarter panel, but yeah, it was excellent shooting. It was. I was thinking about. I didn't really look too close at the gun. I didn't know if he possibly had a had a red dot on the gun, but no, it was iron sights.
Yeah, it was iron sights.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a lot of police agencies are being rather slow to adopt red dots. Almost all of them have flashlights on their sidearms, but red dots, there's still, from officers I've spoken to, some serious concern about reliability in adverse conditions.
Yeah, there is that.
And of course, budget. Because you buying a red dot for your one pistol is going to cost X amount. A department buying red dots for everyone's pistols plus spares is going to be a little bit more. Oh wait, I just saw them.
Yep. And he's and that officer is really working through it too, because you could see when he's out telling the cars to get away and all that, he's leaving bloody footprints on the ground.
Yeah.
So he's leaking real good. And so it's that was great work and great shooting.
Yeah, and just his whole demeanor was extremely impressive. He kept his cool. And I don't think any of us have been shot at in anger.
Fortunately, no.
Yeah,
But
nope.
and I don't know if I'm the only one who has had a gun pointed at them with ill intent. But it's a clarifying moment.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about students accidentally pointing guns at me on the range or customers in the store. I'm talking about being held up at gunpoint.
I assume in New York.
Well, yes, because guns aren't legal there.
But guns aren't legal there. How did they get it?
This was when I was in 7th grade. I was in the wrong. I was cutting school with some friends, and we got held up on our way back to school by a kid about our age.
Oh man,
with a revolver. I didn't know what kind it was at the time, but it was just a little revolver. But man, I keep on missing the particular frame where the one officer, you get actually a fairly decent profile shot of the long gun.
Yeah, it's
definitely a sub 2000.
Yeah, it does.
Because there's a glimpse between the officer and the car door, and you can see the pistol grip, and you can see part of the buffer tube, and you can make out just that little charging handle poking out the bottom.
Well, that's a pretty good one.
Oh, and then there's the tapering fore end. Yeah, definitely a sub 2000. I'm not sure why that was so important to me.
All right.
Yeah, but I mean, good on the officer, bad choice by the perpetrator, but honestly, when that perpetrator chose that course of action, I don't see how it could have turned out better.
Mm-hmm.
Other than the officer not getting hit in the foot.
Yeah. And I gotta wonder, you do see a woman in scrubs come out into frame towards the end.
Yes.
And then goes back
Hands up.
in. Yeah. I wonder if that person knew the suspect at all, or if he just picked that as the final
driveway.
stand.
Yeah. She might have been inside hunkered down calling 911.
Mm-hmm.
And just happened to be he chose her house, or he chose her house because that's his mom or something.
Yeah.
We may never know. But still, very, very good performance by that officer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to take this moment to lighten the mood a little bit with a bit of a comedy. Is Everytown Labs announces launch of EveryShot, an AI-powered tool to track gun violence. Yes.
Everytown Labs.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, which is different from the Michael Bloomberg. Oof. That was a massive thunderclap. It
was actually loud enough that it cut your audio for a moment.
Yeah. But
Wow.
but yeah, this is different from the Michael Bloomberg school of what is it? Gun violence prevention, the Johns Hopkins thing. But yeah, this is yet another branch out of Everytown, and we'll be talking about that a bit more under the next story.
Mhm.
But they are launching an AI powered interactive site, and yeah, this is very, very interesting. I mean, one interesting thing my wife was talking about is with AI, it just goes out and it consumes everything written down and essentially weighs it to try to figure out what the quote unquote truth will be. And that can mean that misconceptions will also have a certain amount of weight. And so,
and AI hallucinations.
That's true. So yeah. And I also wonder if there'll be a little bit of special sauce dribbled into this particular AI that under no circumstances is it allowed to view the evil, awful sites that, use facts or statistics.
Right. Yeah, because what's the old saying? Figures never lie, but liars often figure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's AI in a nutshell.
Yeah. So we'll be watching this. I just wanted to post on it, mostly to point and laugh. I haven't actually gone to the website and played around with it, but I'm not going to learn how to do it right now. But by all means, check it out. Check it out. If you see anything interesting, contact me at the various Assorted Calibers podcast sites and all that. We'll see what's what with it. But the more important bit that's going on, and David, you were the first one to send this one to me. National gun control group lays off most staff.
It was like 16 out of 18 or something.
13 of its 16.
13 to 16.
And that group is March for Our Lives, and this is a little bit this is kind of a little bit misleading, and I don't know if it's this article is from the Reload, and I don't know if Steven picks up on no, he doesn't really talk. He just talks about the fact that essentially Everytown is gutting March for Our Lives.
Well, they don't specifically say Everytown, do they? Because I didn't get the fact that they admitted that March for Our Lives is a wholly owned and funded subsidiary of Bloomberg.
Yeah, but it is.
Well, I mean, I know that it is, but yeah. I didn't think they said it. They didn't say the quiet part out loud.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I will note
the Reload does try to walk that line.
Yeah, and the reason why I say this is not quite as interesting as it could be is the fact that if you go to Everytown's website, you will see that they have moms demand action, but they also have students demand action, which is pretty much the same thing. Because of course, March for Our Lives was the moms demand action for moms demand action sprouted out of the Sandy Hook shooting. The March for Our Lives sprouted out of the Parkland shooting, and it actually used several of the Parkland survivors, including David Hogg, who has been
never heard of her.
Yeah, has been an on and off member of March for Our Lives. There was a little while where I believe he was kicked out, mostly because he wasn't following the script.
He was following his own script. He marches to his own drum.
Yeah. And of course, there's really a lot of talk on the March for Our Lives not following the script and wanting to take add in broader groups and all that. This is very similar to a certain queer Second Amendment group that I'm not going to name, just for the sake of not kicking up drama, that was more than happy to endorse anti-gun political candidates because they also were queer and left-wing. But not pro-gun.
It wasn't us.
It was not Operation Blazing Sword or Pink Pistol, which should be
not.
readily obvious paying attention. But yeah, it was that sort of stuff where they were working with candidates that had made no stance on gun control and were just hitching their trailers to a certain left-wing ideology. So I think Bloomberg or whoever's doing the overall driving of Everytown realized that March for Our Lives was kind of being a bit more of a liability. And so, and really it was always Everytown staffers standing behind a bunch of teenagers or young adults that, and really making it look like they were running the show. But in fact, it was very much the Mickey Mouse Club. It looks like the kids are running the show, but they're not. It's the adults are running the show. They're just not on camera. And so I believe that this Students Demand Action is probably going to be much more tightly controlled by the Everytown umbrella.
Makes sense.
All right. And we got a couple more notes. This one here is a sad note. I will also add on to this that
well, why don't you tell me what the note is before you add on to it?
Yes. Well, it's this note is I think we've referenced them in the past. Erin and I met them. Ordinance Lab on YouTube is officially done. They're wrapping up production down there. I believe his name is Sean. Do you guys know the proprietor's name off the top of your head? I've met the guy.
Is leaving Ordinance. Yeah, Sean is the
is Wish.com Jim Carrey.
What?
That was one of the descriptions that somebody gave to him. He's got the beard now that it doesn't quite look right, but he's officially hanging it up, and hats off to him. He's looking for some greener pastures. The YouTube production was no longer becoming fun, and time to move away from it.
Yep.
And so just give him a hat tip. You really appreciate what you're doing. And what's great is his stuff is still going to be there because there's a whole bunch of really good stuff from the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch, where he actually personally owns a live hand grenade and did it just
legally.
Yeah. Just to show that you can legally through the NFA own a hand grenade.
And they also did, if I remember correctly, they did a Fallout bottle cap mine.
They did a Fallout bottle cap mine. They made a Boomba. They also did a bunch of testing of Molotov cocktails. So that was it. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there. So if you haven't seen Ordinance Lab, you've got plenty of material to dig through, even though they're not making any more.
But they've got a lot of back videos.
Yeah, I think it also goes without saying that Matt Carricker of Demolition Ranch, he is also officially retired as of the time that this podcast is going live.
Yeah, hopefully he'll still show up occasionally as a guest on some of the other gun tubers channels. But
I suspect he will. I think we won't see him for a while, just because I think he's going to be very, very happy spending time with his family. And he's doing it just for family. He's made a ton of money. He's been very, very successful. He's built a good life for him and his family, and he's, as he said, his kids are getting older. They're gonna be going to his oldest is probably going to be going to college pretty soon, and he
still has Bunker Branding and several other businesses.
Yep, he's got Bunker Branding. He's still a veterinarian. He can always go and work as a vet. Like he's all set. He doesn't need us, and
but we kind of need him.
Yeah, and so he will be greatly missed. Though I gotta say, it's hard for me to get too broken up when he has such a good reason for leaving.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I'm sad for us. I'm happy for him.
And I will add that the Bunker Branding crew, there are two spin-off channels. There's one, let me just double check just to make sure that I got the name right. I believe it's called Diversity Hire.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Diversity hires, plural.
Yeah, there's diversity hires, which is essentially I've only been a couple of videos, but I'm really seeing that as the spin-off of Demolition Ranch. And then there's the Sanders, which is very much a spin-off of Off the Ranch, where they're the bunker branding crew, and so they're doing the daily operations of bunker branding and guests that are coming through and going on field trips and doing fun stuff and keeping it as a daily vlog side of it. So, I mean, guarantee that they weren't listening to me, but I was definitely saying, hey, can you just have a Jenna and Mikey channel if Matt can't do it anymore? And so now there's a Jenna and Mikey channel.
Okay, I did not know about that, so I will be subscribing to the Jenna and Mikey channel.
Yeah.
That's the Sanders?
The Sanders and diversity hires.
The Jenna and Mikey show.
Absolutely. So cue Johnny Cash singing "May the Circle Be Unbroken." All right, and this last one, I think David needs to take us out on this one.
Well, I added it in, so I should take us out. Mm-hmm. And that is that it was recently announced by the Civilian Marksmanship Program that they will be producing new production M1 Garands. And they posted a picture of one of their test units, serial number T5, that was out on the firing range at an event. So no other information about when or how many or pricing, of course, at this time, but it's very exciting for, collectors, historical folks, anyone who's interested in a Garand. We've been all wondering how long the CMP is going to be able to maintain without surplus rifles coming in to be sold. Especially, during I think it was the Obama administration, South Korea proposed returning the thousands upon thousands of M1 Garands and M1 carbines that they had been loaned or sold by the U.S. government, but they did it during the Obama administration, so the answer was no. And that was tragic. But while these will not have the historical cachet, they will be put together by people who know what they are doing better than basically anyone else on the planet. Because every Garand that came out of the CMP was checked and refurbished by them. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, and this takes a little bit of pressure off of the actual historical guns, and it really does. I mean, you often will hear people talking about, oh, I picked up a Garand, I picked up a SMLE or other that, but it's a shooter. It's Luger. Actually, I know a bunch of people that have Lugers that are in a little bit rough shape, and they are thankful that they have rough shape Lugers because they bought Lugers to shoot Lugers.
Yep.
And
the same thing is true with people who have a vintage Sharps rifle. They're rarely going to shoot it, but they'll buy a Pedersoli Sharps and shoot the snot out of it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the range and doing things or doing reenactments with a gun that's worth thousands of dollars and is diminishing quality and may be damaged or harmed or exposed to the elements doing various things. But meanwhile, if it's something that's new off the rack, even if it may be, $1,200 or $1,500 to buy, because I suspect these won't be terribly cheap. But who knows? Maybe they will be. Maybe they'll put out some massive production numbers and actually be able to do some scaling. But even if it is a bit more expensive, it's not a historical item. It is in the sense that, it's the first new production Garands in however many years.
Yeah. Also the first batch at least will probably be using a number of military surplus parts other than the receiver, because they have warehouses of parts for refurbishing the old rifles.
Yeah. So either way, this is awesome. This is great. Just as the Colt re-releasing the Python took some of the weight off of the vintage Pythons and allowed also people who just can't afford the classic stuff to, guess what? You can just go out and buy. You can still have that Garand. It may not be a war veteran, but it's still a Garand.
Yeah. So I thought that was a good note to go out on.
Yes. And
it's a Garand old rifle.
Well played, Aaron.
Thank you.
And you know who else is Garand?
Our listeners.
Our listeners. Each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in this week and listening to us ramble about a whole bunch of 2A news. I hope you enjoyed all of that. But if you'd like more of our ramblings, you can consider becoming a patron. The patrons, we got to give extra special thanks to them because they help keep the lights on. They help defer all the costs that are running a podcast. And so, yeah, the patrons get an early use of the podcast. Plus, there is bonus content like the ACP blooper reels, the ACP film tracks, and the ACP mag dump.
Also, please remember to rate us on Apple Podcasts and Pocket Casts. Subscribe to us on the platform of your choice, and share the show with your friends, both online and off.
I get a blog. It's weirdworld.com. That's WEERD world.com. And you can hear me weekly on Handgun Radio on the Firearms Radio Network.
And you can get more from me, theoretically, at Linktree/Erin Paulette. That's linktree.ee/Erin Paulette, all one word.
And David, where can people find you?
Under a Bridge.
Awesome.
I'm obviously a regular here. I also try to be a regular on Handgun Radio if you guys would just try to schedule it when I'm not doing other stuff. Also on the ACP and Handgun Radio Facebook pages. I'm a contributor on Blue Collar Prepping blog, which can be found at bluecollarprepping.blogspot.com. And Aaron, I have 2 posts lined up. I just have to write them.
Okay.
So that's my goal. Also, I'm a published author with stories in books that can be found on Amazon under the names Brenna Bach and David Bach. Please buy them.
Oddball, where can people find you?
Well, I have a blog at gunscarstech.com, and I am also a regular on Handgun Radio and can be found lurking at the Facebook pages for both Handgun Radio and Assorted Calibers podcast. And at the end of the month, you can find me, David, and Weird wandering around on the floor at the NRA convention.
Hotlanta.
Yes.
And thanks to Nate Spencer for our music.
So they're all regulars on Handgun Radio, and I'm not. I'm not heard about it. It's just I don't geek out about pistols the way they do. Our podcast attendance is assorted, and so is our podcast. Redundant. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.